In the heart of Saint Petersburg, behind grey, towering walls, lies a prison that has become a symbol of fear and endurance, Kresty. Its name translates to crosses, and for those who enter, it's a warning. Every choice here carries weight. Every step echoes in corridors where silence can be deadly. This is not a place for the faint-hearted. It's a labyrinth of despair, a monument to isolation, and a theatre for human desperation. For decades, Kresty has held Russia's most notorious criminals, from petty thieves to masterminds behind murders that shook the nation. But behind the headlines, the iron fists of the guards, and the barbed wire that pierces the sky, there is a hidden world. It's a network of codes, alliances, and betrayals that make survival as unpredictable as the Russian winter. Tonight, we open the gates and step into a world most will never see. This is Kresty Prison, and its walls of secrets that could break a man, or forge him into something far more dangerous. The journey into Kresty begins the moment a new inmate arrives. Trucks rumble over cobblestones, carrying men whose identities will soon be reduced to mere numbers. The gates clang shut behind them, a sound that echoes like a death knell. Inside, the prison is a sprawling maze of narrow corridors, high walls, and cell blocks stacked like layers of a forgotten city. Inmates are shuffled through processing rooms where guards watch silently, assessing each newcomer. Here, every glance is measured, every movement scrutinized. The new arrivals know instinctively that weakness is a currency they cannot afford. The seasoned inmates are already sizing up the fresh faces, searching for vulnerabilities, for opportunities, for someone to manipulate or exploit. A new inmate enters cell block D, the oldest part of the prison. Its walls are soaked in decades of tension. The smell of sweat, mold, and desperation clings to the air. For some, this moment is terrifying. For others, it's a brutal awakening. Survival in Kresty demands more than strength. It requires cunning, observation, and the ability to anticipate danger. Kresty operates under a code that is invisible to outsiders. There are no posted rules that govern the alliances, the unwritten hierarchies, or the delicate balance between fear and respect. Inmates learn quickly that a simple misstep can be fatal. Speaking out of turn, challenging a dominant prisoner, or failing to deliver on a promise can spark violent consequences. But for those who understand the system, there is a rhythm, a way to navigate the chaos and emerge intact. Inmates form bonds based on shared criminal histories, survival strategies, or the raw necessity of companionship in a place that thrives on isolation. Rumors circulate of secret tunnels, contraband networks, and coded messages passed through seemingly innocent conversations. And then there are the whispers about the older inmates, men who have spent decades behind these walls, whose names are spoken in fear and awe. Their survival is a testament to their mastery of the Kresty Code. Newcomers quickly realize that learning from them could mean the difference between life and death. Life in Kresty is a relentless battle, even beyond the obvious threats of violence. Every day, inmates contend with the monotony of confinement, the oppressive weight of time, and the psychological warfare that twists the mind. Breakfast is a mechanical affair, the same thin porridge, the same stale bread, consumed in near silence. Work assignments, often menial and grueling, stretch the limits of patience and endurance. Yet even in these moments of routine, power dynamics are at play. Conversations, gestures, even the way a man stands or sits, all are scrutinized. Inmates test each other subtly, probing for weaknesses or hidden strengths. Alliances are formed, broken, and reformed in a constant, invisible dance. Outside, the city of Saint Petersburg continues its life, oblivious to the microcosm of tension and strategy inside Kresty. Here, a single miscalculated word, a single act of defiance, can unravel years of carefully maintained balance. In every prison, there's a center of gravity, a force that determines who rises, who falls, and who simply disappears into the cracks of the system. In Kresty, that force isn't the warden, nor is it the guards patrolling the tiers. It comes from within the inmate population, where influence is earned through quiet strategy and clinical precision. At the heart of this volatile ecosystem is a man the inmates call Voron, meaning the Raven. He isn't physically imposing, nor is he the loudest voice in the cell block. Instead, Voron rules through something far more powerful, knowledge. He knows the guard rotations down to the minute. He knows which inmates are hiding secrets that could destroy them. And he knows the stories behind every whisper that ripples through the prison air. When a new inmate enters Kresty, especially one who seems educated, curious, or observant, Voron notices. Not to intimidate them, but to assess whether they might become an asset or a liability. This week, A newcomer named Alexei Lyov-Morozov catches his attention. Lyov isn't the typical first-timer. His eyes carry the weight of someone who has seen the consequences of trusting the wrong people. He claims to be in for fraud, a non-violent offense, but there's something about him that hints at a deeper story, one he's not ready to share. And in Kresty, secrets don't stay buried for long. Voron decides to test him. Quietly. Patiently. Because survival here isn't about brute strength. It's about choosing the right side before it's too late. High above the cell blocks, behind reinforced glass and iron shutters that rarely open, sits Warden Peter Sokolov, a man who believes order is kept through controlled chaos. Unlike many prison officials, Sokolov doesn't rely on the guards alone. He studies inmate behavior as if it were a science. Every movement, every shift in the social hierarchy, every sudden friendship or unexplained argument, he observes with unsettling clarity. Sokolov's philosophy is simple. Let the inmates police themselves. Let them form alliances, tensions, and silent wars. As long as nothing disrupts the larger system, he remains indifferent. But when something, or someone, threatens to tilt the balance, Sokolov steps in with the cold precision of a surgeon. No shouting. No theatrics. Just quiet corrections that make inmates realize how deeply they are being watched. Recently, Sokolov has noticed the subtle pull between Voron and the newcomer, Lyov. It's nothing obvious, a glance here, a nod there, but enough for the warden to understand that a potential shift is coming. And in Kresty, shifts lead to storms. Sokolov prepares accordingly. Kresty transforms after dark. When the lights dim and the halls fall silent, whispers grow louder than footsteps. Secrets are traded like contraband, and plans that cannot survive daylight begin to take shape. In cell block D, Lyov lies awake, staring at the cracked ceiling that has witnessed countless confessions. He can hear the murmurs of prisoners discussing debts, alliances, and rumors, always rumors. Tonight, he hears something different. 2 cells down, voices rise in hushed urgency. They talk about a guard, one who has been slipping envelopes into pockets, opening doors at the wrong times, and choosing not to notice what happens in isolated corners. A corrupt guard operating in Kresty isn't new, but this one is reckless. And reckless people get inmates hurt. Lyov turns his head, listening carefully. He doesn't want to get involved, but involvement has a way of finding him. Suddenly, a scrap of paper slides under his door. No footsteps. No whisper. Just a message in handwriting he doesn't recognize. You're being watched. Don't trust anyone. It's unclear whether it's a warning, a threat, or an invitation. But one thing is certain. Something has begun, and Lyov is now at the center of it. The next morning, tension thickens the air like fog. Inmates move through the routine motions of breakfast, but conversations are reduced to simple nods and glances. Something is brewing, and word has spread faster than the guards can keep up. Lyov sits at a corner table, keeping to himself, when a shadow falls over him. It's Voron. Calm, composed, unreadable. He takes the seat across from Lyov without asking. For a moment, neither speaks. The silence grows heavy. Then, Voron leans forward, his voice barely above a whisper. You received a message last night. Lyov's pulse jumps, but he doesn't answer. Voron continues. Whoever sent it wants you unsettled. And that means you matter. People don't waste threats on those who have no influence. Lyov finally meets his eyes. Who's watching me? Voron gives a faint, mirthless smile. Everyone. But the real question is, why? Before Lyov can respond, a guard calls for Voron, and he disappears as quietly as he arrived. Lyov is left with a single, unsettling realization. Whatever game is unfolding inside Kresty, he has unknowingly been made a player. There are 2 versions of Kresty Prison, the one the authorities run, and the one inmates build beneath it, an invisible network of favors, debts, and coded communication that even the warden struggles to map. This underground system stretches across cell blocks, laundry rooms, workshops, and even the infirmary. Everything is connected. Food is traded for protection. Information is traded for silence. Silence is traded for survival. It is within this hidden world that Lyov discovers something unexpected. His background, the one he has tried to hide, makes him valuable. He once worked as a financial analyst. He knows numbers, patterns, discrepancies. He sees things others overlook. And inmates who understand money are dangerous, because money leaves trails, and trails expose power. Soon, Lyov is approached not by Voron this time, but by a lesser-known inmate, a messenger for someone deeper within the hierarchy. The message is simple: you can help us. Or you can pretend you can't. But pretending won't save you. Lyov now stands between two forces, Voron's quiet authority, and an unnamed faction operating from the shadows. And in Kresty, being caught between sides is the quickest path to destruction. The workshop is one of the few places in Kresty where inmates can move with a sense of purpose. Tools clatter, machines hum, and the dull rhythm almost resembles normal life. Almost. But here, every sound hides conversations, and every task masks intentions. I was sent to repair inventory sheets, a job that seemed harmless until I noticed something unusual. The numbers didn't add up. Supplies vanished on paper long before they vanished in reality. This wasn't just sloppy record keeping. It was a silent, organized system, controlled by someone who knew exactly how much the guards chose to ignore. As I worked, I felt a presence behind me. I turned to find a man staring at me, tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes like chipped ice. His silence filled the room more heavily than any machine. This was Semyon Baranov, known simply as Baran, a name spoken only in tones of extreme caution. He wasn't part of Voron's inner circle, nor did he belong to any of the low-level cliques. Baran answered to no one, and no one dared to ask him to. He stepped closer, inspecting my paperwork as if he already knew what I'd found. "Numbers reveal truth," he murmured, his voice a low rumble. "And truth reveals those who hide." I swallowed, my throat suddenly dry. Baran tapped the table once before walking away without another word. But the message was crystal clear. Someone knew I'd uncovered the discrepancies, and they wanted me to understand that curiosity in Kresty comes with very real consequences. Kresty's guards are not all the same. Some perform their duties with cold professionalism. Others treat inmates with unnecessary hostility. But then there are the ones who operate in the shadows, bending the rules not for cruelty, but for profit. The name circulating in hushed whispers is Officer Dmitry Markin. On the surface, Markin appears like any other guard, but beneath that polished exterior is a man whose loyalty can be bought. Markin controls access to movement, to information, to opportunity. And now, he had taken an interest in me. He stopped me in a secluded hallway, not with aggression, but with a strange, calm authority. "You're smarter than the others," he said. "And smart men in here. Either stay quiet or become very useful." I remained silent, sensing the weight of this interaction. Markin lowered his voice. "I don't know what you've stumbled into, but whatever it is, step carefully. Things here are shifting, and you don't want to be standing in the wrong place when they collapse." Then he left, a ghost in uniform. I stood frozen, realizing that corruption in Kresty wasn't just tolerated. It was woven into its very foundation. And now, both inmates and guards were pulling me into a game I never wanted to play. Later that evening, Voron summoned me to a secluded corner of the recreation yard, a place shielded from most guard sightlines. His usual calm was gone, replaced by a sharp edge. "You've attracted attention," he said. "More than most newcomers. That's a problem." I bristled. I didn't ask for any of it. Voron nodded slowly. "No one ever does. But here, attention is currency, and you must decide how you'll spend it." He stepped closer. "Baran has noticed you. Markin has noticed you. Whoever sent that first note, they noticed you first. You must choose who you stand with. Neutrality is an illusion here." He was offering me something rare, time. Time to understand the game before I was forced to make a move I couldn't undo. In Kresty, choosing a side isn't a matter of loyalty, it's survival. Routine is the backbone of prison life. But I began noticing small deviations. A laundry cart left a foot off its usual spot. A book in the library with a single folded page. 2 inmates switching cells without explanation. Each detail was insignificant alone, but patterns tell stories. That evening, I received another note, this time slipped inside a roll of bread. No threats, no warnings. Just a single line. "You're searching for answers. Good. Ask the right questions." I looked around the mess hall, trying to identify who might be watching me, but the faces blurred together. Someone was directing me toward something, but whether it was truth or a trap remained unclear. That night, a storm rolled over Saint Petersburg. Lying awake, I replayed the details of the past days, the workshop numbers, Baran's warning, Markin's cryptic advice, Voron's watchful presence, and the anonymous notes. Then it clicked. The missing supplies from the workshop weren't random theft. They aligned with the cell switches I'd noticed. And those switches connected to inmates who were recently questioned by Markin. It wasn't a smuggling operation. It was a communication network. Someone was using supply shortages and cell rotations as signals, a coded exchange hidden in plain sight. And coded messages are sent for one reason: to coordinate something that can't be spoken aloud. An icy realization settled in my chest. Someone in Kresty was planning a move. A big one. And I had just stumbled onto the trail. I whispered into the darkness, barely audible even to myself. What are you planning, and why do you need me? Baran isn't the kind of man who calls for meetings. If he wants someone's attention, he takes it. And this morning, he takes Lyov's. It happens during equipment check in the workshop. One moment Lyov is counting boxes, the next he feels Baran's massive hand grip his arm. It's not bruising, but there's an authority there that makes resistance unthinkable. Baran leads him into a narrow storage room, shutting the door behind them. The hum of machines outside fades, replaced by an unnerving stillness. Baran stands close, his presence swallowing the small space. You see too much, he says quietly. That makes you useful. Lyov steadies his breathing. Useful for what? Baran's jaw tightens. A shift is coming. A big one. And someone with your eyes will be needed to make sure it succeeds. Lyov's heart thuds, but he forces his voice to remain steady. What exactly is this shift? Baran doesn't answer. Instead, he leans in closer, lowering his voice until it's barely a whisper. There are things in motion that cannot be spoken aloud. Not here. Not anywhere. When the time comes, you'll know your part. He steps back, his expression turning unreadable. Until then, watch everything. And say nothing. The door swings open, and Baran disappears into the workshop without another word. Lyov's hands tremble, not from fear, but from the realization that he is now tied to something far larger than he can understand. A storm is forming, and has been placed directly in its center. Meanwhile, Warden Sokolov rarely leaves his office except for scheduled inspections, but today he walks the tiers with an unsettled intensity. His usual stoic mask is strained. He scans faces, observes movements, notes every whisper. Something has disrupted the fragile balance he maintains. He pauses at the railing overlooking cell block D, his eyes narrowing as he watches Baran and his men move with an almost synchronized discipline. A formation. A structure. A preparation. Sokolov doesn't need to hear words to sense plans forming. His instincts, honed by decades of navigating inmate politics, warn him that something is shifting beneath the surface. When he returns to his office, he summons Markin. The guard arrives promptly, but his expression carries a subtle irritation, a frustration Sokolov does not miss. Tell me, Sokolov begins, why is there increased coordination in Block D? Markin shrugs. Prisoners talk. They plan. They'll fight each other, and we'll clean it up like always. Sokolov fixes him with a cold, unwavering stare. No, this is different. Markin's jaw tightens, his eyes darting for a fraction of a second. It's the smallest hint of discomfort, but enough for the warden to notice. Sokolov leans forward. If you are involved in anything, any business, any agreement, any favor, now is the time to remember where your loyalty lies. Markin bows his head slightly, but Sokolov sees the truth. He's lying. And something inside Kresty has grown beyond his control. That night, Lyov sits on his bunk, the distant rumble of thunder echoing through the old prison walls. The air is cold, heavy with the scent of damp stone. He thinks back to the life he lived before prison, a life built on numbers, predictions, and risk assessments. He had always believed that numbers never lied, that they gave order to chaos. But now he finds himself surrounded by a different kind of equation, one built not on data, but on human intention, subtle cues, and dangerous alliances. For the first time, he wonders if he miscalculated something long before he ever stepped into Kresty. His arrest, the speed of his sentencing, the missing case files, the silence of people he once trusted. It suddenly feels less like coincidence and more like orchestration. A design he didn't see coming. He whispers to himself, who put me here, and why? The question hangs in the air like a weight. The next day, attention hovers over the yard like static. It's quiet, too quiet. Prisoners who normally gather in small clusters now stand apart, watching each other with cautious eyes. Lyov senses the shift immediately. Something is about to happen. He spots Baran at the far end of the yard, standing with his men in a loose semicircle. Voron, on the opposite side, observes with a calm that borders on unnerving. The two factions rarely show open hostility, but today, lines are drawn without a single word spoken. Then, a sudden movement. A prisoner bumps into Lyov, shoving him forward. It's intentional. A setup. Before he can regain his balance, Baran steps toward him, and the yard falls into silence. Every eye is fixed on them. Baran stops inches away. "There are people waiting on your answer," he says quietly. "Choose your place." Before Lyov can speak, Voron appears at his side, placing a steady hand on his shoulder. "He chooses nothing," Voron says. "Not yet." The yard freezes. Two forces, one man caught between them. Baran studies Lyov, then gives a single nod, not of agreement, but acknowledgement. Time is running out. Don't wait too long. He turns and walks away. Voron doesn't move until Baran is gone. Then he whispers, "You see now. They won't let you stay neutral. You're in this whether you want it or not." Lyov stands motionless, the weight of the moment settling into him. A decision is coming, and everyone knows it. Later that evening, Lyov tries to distract himself by flipping through an old library book. As he turns a page, a small slip of paper falls out, thin, yellowed, folded with delicate precision. His pulse quickens. He opens it carefully. Inside is a series of numbers: 14 to 3, 22, 7 to 18, 1, 29 to 11. At first glance, it seems meaningless. But something about the structure triggers a memory of coded financial reports. This isn't random. It's a cipher. He scans the page again, realizing the sequence aligns perfectly with the missing inventory patterns from the workshop. It's a message, a map, instructions. His chest tightens as he realizes what it represents. Someone inside Kresty is building a coordinated network, a silent movement masked as everyday prison operations. And these numbers are part of the blueprint. But who left it in the book? And why for him? Lyov folds the paper and hides it inside his sleeve. The invisible game circling around him isn't just growing, it's accelerating. And whether he likes it or not, he now holds one of its most important pieces. The days that follow are tense, each moment thick with unspoken warnings. I move carefully, aware that every action could be observed, every glance scrutinized. I can feel their eyes on me, Voron, Baran, even Officer Markin, though no one speaks. Then, the first test arrives. Not with words, but with action. A small package goes missing from the workshop. It's a trivial item in any other context, but here in Kresty, a missing object is a signal. The prisoners whisper, the guards take note, and the factions within the cell block adjust their stances. Later, Voron approaches me in the corner of the yard, quiet as a shadow. "This was meant for you to notice," he says. "It's a trial, to see if you pay attention." I look down at my hands. "And if I fail?" Voron's gaze is steady, unflinching. Failure has consequences you cannot afford. The meaning hangs in the air. In Kresty, consequences aren't just warnings, they are experiences. In that instant, I understand that being aware is as important as breathing. Every detail matters. Every decision carries weight. And the first real move in this invisible game has already been made. The corridors of Kresty are cold and unforgiving, but even in darkness, alliances are formed. Most are born not of friendship, but of necessity. I notice the tension between Voron and Baran isn't just rivalry. It's structured, almost strategic. And in the middle of that delicate balance, an unexpected ally emerges. Nikolai, a quiet inmate in his late 40s who has survived the prisoner's harshest conditions without drawing attention. He approaches me during library hours, carrying a worn notebook. He doesn't introduce himself with a handshake. Instead, he opens the notebook, revealing coded notes that mirror the sequences I've already uncovered. "You're not alone," Nikolai whispers, scanning the area. "But you need to move carefully. There are layers here you haven't seen yet. Voron, Baran, even Markin, they all think they control the game. But some moves are hidden, deeper." I lean in, captivated and wary. "Why help me?" Nikolai's eyes are sharp, yet tired. "Because someone has to. And if you survive, it could change everything." Night falls, and the prison settles into its uneasy rhythm. I lie awake, My notebook and cipher slips hidden beneath my pillow. Sleep is impossible. Suddenly, a shadow passes my cell window, a fleeting silhouette. Then, a faint whisper drifts through the darkness. Trust no one. Not yet. I freeze. Was it Voron testing me? Baran signaling a warning? Or some other force entirely? I realize survival here isn't about strength or loyalty. It's about perception, awareness, patience. Tomorrow will bring another test, another step deeper into Kresty's hidden machinery. I whisper to myself, I will not be invisible. I will understand. And somewhere in the stillness, the old prison walls seem to respond, silent witnesses to a game that could consume anyone, or forge someone unstoppable. The morning in Kresty is a lie. Sunlight might slice through the narrow windows, lighting up dust motes dancing in the stale air, but that warmth is just an illusion. Inside these walls, sunlight means nothing. Every shadow hides a story, every reflection a secret. I noticed the changes right away. Baran and Voron, the two rival leaders, no longer moved independently. Their eyes, their gestures, their brief signals, it was all coordinated. They were like two chess players who suddenly realized there was a third, unseen opponent on the board. During breakfast, Nikolai, the old-timer, leaned in close. His voice was low, measured. They're not just fighting for power anymore, he whispered. Something bigger is coming. And whether you like it or not, you're a part of it now. I tried to make sense of his cryptic words, but he just added, keep your eyes open. Follow the numbers. Trust no face. The hidden agenda in Kresty doesn't announce itself with a bang. It moves quietly, like a shadow gliding over cold stone floors. And I was just beginning to understand its rhythm. But understanding it and being ready to face it were two very different things. The corridors of Kresty are alive with a quiet menace. Even normal sounds, footsteps echoing, doors clicking shut, distant murmurs, seemed charged with intent. During yard time, I sensed something was off. A group of inmates gathered in a corner, far from the guards' prying eyes. They kept glancing my way. No words were spoken, but their gaze carried the weight of a threat. It was Baran's crew. The message was clear. I was being tested again. Voron saw it all, but said nothing, his face a mask. I felt the invisible walls tightening around me. Survival here isn't just about staying alive. It's a constant calculation, an endless negotiation with forces you can't see. As I walked back to my cell, a vital truth hit me. In Kresty, threats are rarely spoken. They are performed, observed, and interpreted. And missing a single cue could cost you everything. Officer Dmitry Markin is a man who understands leverage better than most inmates understand survival. And today, he made his move. He stopped me in the hallway, leaning casually against the wall, his eyes sharp and calculating. You're slipping into places you shouldn't, he said softly. Not everything is meant to be discovered. I held his gaze, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm just observing. Markin gave a faint, almost invisible smile. Observation is valuable, but dangerous. There are things even Voron and Baran don't know, and if you stumble into them, you'll regret it. He stepped back, letting the words hang in the air. The power play was obvious. Markin wasn't just a guard. He was a player, shaping the chessboard from within. I finally understood the full scale of what I was up against. Not just prisoners and their factions, but the very people meant to enforce the rules were playing their own hidden games. It seemed Kresty had no rules that favored outsiders. That night, the prison fell into an uneasy silence. Long, twisting shadows were cast by the dim corridor lights. I was jolted awake by a faint sound, a deliberate sliding noise that didn't belong. I thought it was a guard on patrol, but something was wrong. It was too precise, too intentional, and dangerously close. A shadow moved along the wall outside my cell, small, swift, and deliberate. A folded note was slipped under my door. I opened it carefully. The message was brief and chilling. Tomorrow, you will choose. The wrong side means silence. My pulse raced. Who left it? Voron? Baran? Someone else entirely? And how much time did I really have before this invisible game turned deadly? Sleep was impossible now. Every creak, every distant cough, every sigh of stone against stone felt like a warning. Kresty was no longer just a prison. It was a living, breathing entity, and tonight, I was at its center. The next day, the tension was so thick you could feel it. The prison's usual routine was gone, replaced by silent signals and guarded stances. I was escorted to the workshop, where Baran was waiting with a single instruction. Follow the instructions in the notebook. You've been careful until now, but this is your first real move. I hesitated, knowing that this wasn't a request. It was a test of my intelligence, loyalty, and nerve. Voron watched from a distance, his expression unreadable. The unspoken message was clear. Mistakes will not be forgiven. As I began the coded task, organizing materials in a specific pattern that only I could understand, I realized the game was no longer theoretical. The lines between ally, enemy, and observer had blurred completely. And in that moment, I crossed a line from which there was no turning back. The air grew heavy with anticipation. The other inmates could sense the shift. They whispered in corners, gave me furtive glances, and kept their distance, a silent acknowledgement that something pivotal had happened. That evening, Voron approached me. He was quieter than usual, almost reverent. "You've made your first move," he said. It was acceptable. But there will be others. Harder, riskier, and you must succeed. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders. This was more than just survival now. This was full participation in a hidden war, where the smallest error could unravel everything. And somewhere, unseen eyes were watching, measuring, judging. Kresty doesn't forgive hesitation. It rewards precision, or it punishes recklessly. I finally understood. The game had truly begun, and the consequences of one wrong move would not wait. The next day, under the guise of research, I'm summoned to the ancient library. The shelves here sag under the weight of dusty books, and the air is thick with the smell of mildew and faded ink. Most inmates steer clear, sensing that knowledge in this place can be a dangerous thing. Between the stacks, Nikolai finds me. He pulls a small, leather-bound ledger from his coat, its cover worn smooth from years of handling. "This," he whispers, "is the map of Kresty that no one talks about. Names, movements, supply chains, alliances, everything is recorded here. And whoever controls it controls the invisible game." I open the ledger, my eyes widening. Inside are lists of inmates, numbers, and subtle notations in a code I can't yet decipher. Where did you get this? I ask. Nikolai's eyes dart around cautiously. It's been passed down. Some of us keep track. The moment someone notices too much, they're either recruited or removed. I feel the ledger's weight in my hands, both literal and symbolic. This is no longer a game of observation. It's a game of control. And by holding this book, I've just become a target as well as a player. Tensions escalate faster than I could have imagined. That evening, a note is slipped under my cell door. No sender. Just a few chilling words. Trust is a currency you cannot afford. Someone close has already turned. Panic sets in. Who could it be? Nikolai. Someone from Voron's circle? The next morning, chaos erupts in cell block D. Baran's faction intercepts a supply run, catching a prisoner smuggling information to Voron's camp. Voron watches from across the yard, his eyes narrowing as Baran's men tighten their formation in a clear show of strength. The whispered warning echoes in my mind. Betrayal has already begun. Later, I find myself cornered in the workshop, facing Baran alone. No witnesses, just the cold walls and the echo of dripping water. His voice is calm, almost friendly. "You've seen too much," he says. "But that doesn't make you our enemy. Not yet." My heart pounds. "Then what do you want?" Baran steps closer, his voice dropping to a low whisper. "I want your discretion, your understanding, and your ability to follow instructions without hesitation. Fail us, and you'll learn why silence is mandatory here." I nod, realizing the line between coercion and opportunity is razor thin. One misstep could be fatal, but I know that compliance is only temporary. True control comes from understanding the game, not surrendering to it. That night, Nikolai and I meet again in the library shadows. The ledger lies open between us. "You need to understand something," he whispers. "Voron and Baran are playing a visible game, but there's a hidden layer, something they can't control." I lean in. "What is it?" His eyes are sharp. Information. Patterns. The prison itself communicates through routines, schedules, even mistakes. If you learn to read it, you can anticipate moves before they happen. It's a revelation. In Kresty, power isn't just brute force, it's foresight. For the first time, I feel a sense of agency, not just fear. I'm no longer just caught between factions. I can start to shape what happens next. The following morning, a rare event disrupts the prison's rhythm. A sharply dressed visitor enters under escort, his demeanor calm and authoritative. Whispers ripple through the corridors. Even Voron's stoic face shows a flicker of curiosity. The man doesn't speak to inmates, only to Sokolov, reviewing records and asking questions that hint at a deeper investigation. The presence of an outsider unnerves everyone. I sense an opportunity. This man could tip the scales, exposing schemes or creating new vulnerabilities. Later, I tell Nikolai, this could change everything. He nods, his expression grim. Or it could make survival impossible. Watch closely. The week progresses with a growing sense of dread. Alliances solidify, whispers of betrayal grow louder, and the invisible game tightens its grip. I move through the prison differently now, aware of every pattern, every murmur, every silence. One evening, a storm breaks over Saint Petersburg, the thunder and rain mirroring the tension inside. Baran consolidates his power, Voron watches silently, and Markin maneuvers with a chilling precision. I know the first major test is coming. The hidden currents I've been following are about to converge, and when they do, no one will emerge unscathed. Kresty is about to reveal its true nature, not as a prison, but as a crucible. And my place within it will determine whether I survive, dominate, or simply disappear. The next morning, Kresty feels heavier than usual. The air itself seems charged, every corridor a conduit for silent communication. Lyov notices it immediately. Baran's men are unusually disciplined, Voron's gaze is sharper, and even Officer Markin seems weirdly attentive. Then, Lyov gets another folded note, slipped under his cell door without a sound. Follow the ledger tonight. Do exactly as instructed. One mistake and it ends. He knows it's a test, but he also senses a trap. He's in too deep to back out now. As night falls, Lyov moves through the cell blocks, following the ledger's coded instructions. Each turn, each movement, is calculated. Every flicker of shadow or whisper in the hall carries meaning. Somewhere in the darkness, unseen eyes are watching him. The trap has been set, but is not sure who it's for. The final step leads Lyov to the workshop. The machines are silent, the air thick with tension. Baran and Voron are both there, standing at opposite ends, their eyes locked on him. Baran steps forward, his voice low and controlled. You've followed instructions. Well done. But then Voron's voice cuts in, sharp and cold. But this is just the beginning. Every move now is critical. One wrong choice, and you become part of Kresty's history in a way you really don't want. Lyov feels the crushing weight of their combined attention. The hidden game, the invisible currents, the coded ledger, it's all coming together in this moment. He realizes that survival isn't about picking a side. It's about reading the unseen forces and acting decisively. He takes a deep breath, preparing for the move that could either save him or destroy him. Suddenly, a faint whistle echoes from the far end of the workshop. One of Voron's men steps forward and throws open a small cabinet. Inside is Nikolai, bound, gagged, a look of pure defiance in his eyes. Lyov freezes. Betrayal. It's not Baran or Voron. It's someone he had trusted, someone pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Baran's face is a mask, completely unreadable, but Voron's eyes glint with recognition and something else, calculation. You see, Voron says softly, in Kresty, no one is truly safe. Not even the guides. Lyov finally gets it. The ledger, the notes, the coded instructions, it all led him here. To witness that loyalty is conditional, and trust can be turned into a weapon. He's passed the first true test, but it came at a cost he never anticipated. Lyov takes a step back, quickly surveying the room. Every detail matters now. The spacing of the men, the placement of tools, even the low hum of the machines. He realizes something vital. This betrayal is also an opportunity. Using the ledger and his knowledge of the hidden patterns, he signals a sequence with subtle movements, a silent command that other prisoners recognize. Suddenly, the tide begins to shift. Baran's men hesitate, looking uncertain. Voron's eyes widen with a rare flicker of surprise. Lyov sees his opening and acts, guiding Nikolai to safety while somehow maintaining control of the workshop. The invisible game, layered, dangerous, and almost lethal, bends, if only for a moment, to his advantage. For the first time, Lyov understands. In Kresty, the difference between survival and destruction is foresight, cunning, and the guts to act when everyone else is frozen. Just then, rain lashes against the prison windows as thunder rattles the old stone walls. The storm outside perfectly mirrors the chaos inside. Guards rush to investigate, factions reposition, and for the first time, the invisible power dynamics of Kresty are briefly exposed. Lyov and Nikolai move swiftly, using the corridors and shadows to disappear. He has the ledger, the key to the entire hidden network. Voron watches silently from an upper tier, understanding that the game has completely changed. Baran melts into the shadows, already recalculating his next move. And Markin, observing from the perimeter, realizes he's seriously underestimated the new player. In the darkness of the storm-lashed night, one truth becomes clear. Survival in Kresty is no longer about following instructions. It's about seeing what others can't and daring to act when they hesitate. Lyov has crossed the threshold from observer to master of his own fate. But in a place like Kresty, mastery is temporary, and the next wave is always waiting. As the storm subsides and dawn breaks over Saint Petersburg, the corridors of Kresty seem eerily calm. But beneath the surface, everything has changed. Lyov realizes that the ledger, the notes, the tests, all of it was designed not to control him, but to reveal him. To test his intelligence, his patience, and his ability to navigate these invisible networks. He finally sees the full scope. Voron, Baran, even Markin were all just participants in a system far larger than themselves. A structure where prisoners and guards alike are pieces in an eternal, intricate game. And Lyov smiles faintly. For the first time, he is no longer just a piece. He's a player. Weeks later, Kresty continues its relentless rhythm. Guards patrol, prisoners whisper, and the invisible currents of power continue to shift and sway. But in the center of it all, Lyov has emerged not unscathed, but empowered. He knows the stakes, the dangers, the betrayals, and the secret alliances. He's seen the patterns, deciphered the codes, and survived the tests. Voron approaches him one last time, giving a faint, approving nod. "You've learned well," he says. "But remember, in Kresty, the lesson never ends." Lyov just nods. He understands. Survival is not a destination. It's a constant calculation, a perpetual game. The prison remains the same, cold, unforgiving, and full of secrets. But one man inside it now walks differently. He sees. He understands. And for the first time, he is no longer just surviving. He is playing. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more.